listeners. Welcome back to Uplifting Global Talent, the podcast that we talk about real world topics about HR, culture, and leadership. And we welcome global senior HR leaders and industry experts in our podcast. I'm your host, Serap Zel. I'm the founder of Uplift. And today I'm very happy to welcome Michal Mullor, who is the Chief People Officer at Aleph Holding. And Michal, it's fantastic to have you today with us.
I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me, and it's so nice to connect with you again, Serap.
Thank you. And Michal brings a wealth of experience in global HR management, HR transformation, global compensation. And during the most of her career, I know that she worked in the US in different companies, and such as Microsoft. Maybe Michal, you can introduce yourself quickly to our listeners so we can know you better.
Sure. My name is Michal Mullor. I am currently based in Madrid, Spain, after spending many, many years abroad in the US. Originally, I'm actually from Israel, so I have moved around the globe quite a bit. And my entire career has been in HR. I actually started in recruiting, funny enough, in Israel, in
Nice.
talent acquisition. And then majority of my roles have been in compensation and benefits. But the last 10 years, I was at Microsoft and spent time in a very interesting space, which is mergers and acquisitions. And so acquiring companies and doing integration from an HR perspective, which has really been just a fascinating experience and has taught me so, so much.
Yeah.
And
And
today I'm with Aleph, yeah, which is a
yeah.
global digital marketing organization.
And how long has been so far with Aleph, Michal?
Just about 2 years.
2 years. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. And I know your, I think, experience at Microsoft was quite complex, challenging, and with the global scope and complexity. And I think it prepared you well for the maybe this next role. So we'll talk about that today. HR, global HR transformation. That's our main topic. And of course, before we move to the heavier HR topics, I want to ask
Mhm.
a few personal questions because we usually ask this warm up questions to get to know you better. So maybe let's start with that. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah, great. Can you share two things about yourself beyond your professional role? So, are there any hobbies or interests? What would you say?
So I will say I have been a very busy working mom for the last couple decades. And so my time is very limited, but I have developed a passion for health and wellness, which I know is somewhat connected to HR, but it really is on a personal level. In my past, I never enjoyed really going to the gym or doing anything physical. And the past couple years, I have found that I use my brain so much and is so sedentary that I had to find kind of outlets to be more physically active and kind of have a better balance in life. And so I've actually developed quite a passion and a lot of knowledge around the health and wellness, and have transformed my how I eat and how I work out and many things like that. So
Yeah.
that's one. The second area that I'm very passionate about is I moved from the US from a suburban lifestyle and now live in a city in Madrid in a very urban lifestyle. And
Mm,
so this has really been like I've learned a lot about myself because I have been so much happier being in such a busy hustle and bustle city. It's really interesting how your environment impacts you day to day. And just going out to the city for me is so enjoyable. I discovered my love for architecture. I just really love the architecture of Madrid, and just so
yeah.
many things that the city has to offer is really I'm quite passionate about it and really enjoy exploring and learning new things about the city, which is like every day you go out, you find something new, which has been really
Amazing.
exciting for me.
Yeah. And was it an intentional choice, by the way, Michal, to come to Madrid after the
Believe it
US?
or not, it was quite haphazard. I came to a point where I really felt like I was stagnating in the place that I was living, which was Seattle, Washington, which is a beautiful place, but just
Yeah.
didn't really speak to me. I'm not so much a nature person. I'm more of an urban city person. And so I really, in the matter of 2 weeks, we made a decision to move across the world to a country. I actually had never been to Madrid with my two boys and my husband.
Indeed.
And we just
Big change.
love it. Best decision ever. My kids are fluent in Spanish, have picked up the culture, which
Great.
was really important to me that they weren't
Yeah.
just growing up in a US English speaking environment, but that they experienced something different. And it's been an amazing experience for us.
Great. Yeah,
Yeah.
glad to hear that. So that's interesting. So let me ask also, what is the last book you read that had a big impact on you? I'm always asking this in the podcast. So we are getting the book, recommended book list through this episode.
Well, I have a little bit of a different answer here because since COVID, I have found like I start some books and I'm having a very hard time finishing books.
Finishing it.
But
Yeah.
what I do
Learning.
read, interestingly, is scientific literature. This is
Hmm.
connected to my health and wellness because I think there's a lot of trends and fads and things that people do. And so I actually have more scientific based approach to how I approach wellness and health. And
Yeah.
so I read a lot of scientific literature, which really has impacted my life in a profound way because when you have limited time, you have to use that time wisely and know what works well for you.
Yeah.
And so this has really been transformative for me.
That's
Um,
great. Yeah. And you
yeah,
can see the impact immediately, right? So you feel
yeah,
better. Your motivation mood is
it's
changing fast.
amazing.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
amazing.
Maybe we can have a separate episode about this
Yeah.
well-being and health. I think it's everyone is quite interested in this topic in today's world, and we
For
have to.
sure. It's much
Yeah.
needed. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe the last question about the personal thing. And what is a hobby you have always wanted to pick up but never did?
Okay. This is actually a really left field one, I would say, but I want to become a sailor. And
Really?
so
Oh,
I actually hope that this summer we will take sailing lessons
wow.
because I'm not living near the water, but I really love the water. And so I think you kind of have
Mhm.
to know what places give you joy and happiness. For my husband, for example, it's the mountains. But I love the water. And so I've decided that I'm going to try to be a sailor. So that is a hobby
Yes,
that
maybe
I'm
one
looking
day.
forward to picking up.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
where is the closest place to you? Like Barcelona? No. I mean, to go to the
Barcelona
sea.
is close and is on the water. So yes, I
Yeah.
am landlocked right now, but since I like this kind of moving lifestyle and I'm part of a company that's global,
Yeah.
you never know where my next destination is going to be.
Which is beautiful, right? So it's really nice to have that flexibility. Uh, so yeah, that's great. Thanks a lot. So it's very inspiring. And let's move to our HR conversation now. Then,
Okay.
and for our listeners, and Michal and I work together in building talent pipeline for her global leadership team, and as well as some executive roles at Aleph. And I observe Aleph as highly dynamic and highly complex also, like because they have operations and a business in many different countries, regions. So and you are leading this global people function. So I'm really interested in learning more about like what are the unique challenges that you face when you are managing this such a broad spectrum in the global organization and with diverse cultural backgrounds as well, different cultures, regulations. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your daily challenges.
Sure. So, as you said, Aleph is a very diverse and complex organization. We operate in 70 countries. And
70. Wow.
so for me, that in and of itself is kind of normal because Microsoft operated in 120 countries. So that's, something that for big global companies is common. But the difference at Aleph is the way the organization came together is primarily through mergers and acquisitions without having one center of gravity. So
Mm,
every subsidiary is kind of its own mini Microsoft, if you will. So that makes it a lot more challenging because you don't have a common sort of ground to go to. It's like every subsidiary, every region has its own setup. And so this is one of the primary challenges for HR and the team is moving towards what is the Aleph company as one organization. And this is sort of the transformation and the integration work that we're working towards.
Yeah.
So just some common things that we try to think about in HR to not get overwhelmed by the challenge
Yeah.
is we try to shrink the world and think about more of the common factors
Mm.
and instead of the differences, because the differences are many and they don't help us. And so we have to come from the place of, how do you shrink that world and make it less intimidating, let's say, or complex than what it is. So that's one thing that we do. The other thing is thinking about the trade offs. There's a trade off to every sort of approach that you take, and really talking about what are those trade offs and aligning on them. This is very important because everybody's pulling in the direction that they want to pull, and that doesn't serve our purpose. And so, really talking through that and understanding what are the trade offs. Yes, you're going to give something up, but what are you gaining in exchange is a really important conversation, especially in emerging markets, because
Mm.
people want to keep what's unique to them, and taking that away from them is not something that people are
Yeah.
open to. And one thing that I want to share, and this is something that I learned in my career, is the power of principles.
Mm.
Because when you have so many different points of view and people that are pulling in different direction, landing on common principles and really applying those is a very powerful mechanism to coming to consensus agreement. Even if I don't love the outcome, I understand why we're doing it, and we agreed to these principles. And so I'm able to have a conversation on does this align to the principles that we decided upon. And so it allows for HR to operate in a way where is more freeing for them because they know the principles and can have a dialogue based on something that's grounded in those principles. And it just makes decision making easier. It's easier for employees to understand how we come to decisions and not trying to treat every exception and one off situation as kind of the norm. And so this has served me very well in the past through Microsoft when we were doing integrations and mergers and acquisitions, which is a highly, highly complex area, and something that we try to leverage as much as possible. And
Yeah.
certainly technology is a big one, right? Technology is our friend, and really understanding how you embrace technology to overcome differences and automation is crucial in this kind of a transformation. And then one area that I'm trying to personally work on is the power of the storytelling and analogies to kind of quickly come to consensus. We have so many regions, so many countries, so many things to it's a lot to take on. And so trying to simplify things through stories, analogies, even for the HR team to use, is something that it's a skill that you need to build and really learn. And how you do that in a way that resonates with your organization is not a simple thing either. But this is something that I've taken on as a personal challenge. Like how do you do that better and more effectively?
Especially storytelling, maybe with data as well. You use
Yeah,
some data points and maybe past experience, what happened, learnings, etc., right?
yeah,
To make it more powerful.
yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mhm.
No, that's great. I mean, good, really great list. And I was thinking also that as we always say, like one size doesn't fit all. There are always some local nuances or different expectations from each region. But at the same time, we need to ensure some consistency, from global perspective. I really like what you said about those references or principles that
Mhm.
you may refer, and to create that consistency, right? So is there anything else that you want to add that point, like how can you create consistency while understanding local nuances, local regulations?
I mean, I think for me, it's also, well, one piece is building the team in a way that accommodates that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, So we definitely leverage our HR business partners a lot to ensure that they're feeding back to us what is, sacred cows that we definitely don't want to mess with. And I think that's really important, and to
Yeah.
give that freedom to the regions. And so I think one of the challenges that HR is faced with is we take on everything.
Mm,
And some things maybe we shouldn't. And some things we need to really think about, what should be placed in the region, and what do they need to keep, and how rigid do we really need to be, because some of that stems from our desire to be able to, have some controls in place and governance in place,
of
which is really
course.
important. But we sometimes need to think about these things differently. So, how you set up the team and what the team's role is in that, in challenging and allowing the HR team to challenge some of the things, is also very crucial to
Yeah.
coming to a happy medium.
I think being open-minded and asking the right question, listening, and finding the solution in that case, I think is a really good approach. So yeah. Okay, so let me come to the talent acquisition, the topic that I love. And I know
Yes.
it's getting more and more challenging to find and attract talent globally. And I know at Aleph, you are hiring people, yeah, as you mentioned, in 70 different countries, where sometimes I know there are some challenging locations as well to find and attract talent, especially, I mean, there's globalization, digitalization, etc. I mean, of course, now there are lots of remote work set up. However, you still need local talent who has local market experience, who can speak local languages, maybe. And how is your strategy to attract talent globally but locally successfully? So, what would you say about that?
Well, this is not my area of expertise for sure. We have
I
a
know.
very talented head of talent acquisition who is very good at her job. Her name is
Yes, yeah.
Marilena.
Hi to
Uh,
Marilena as
I
well
know very
from
well.
yes.
Yes. But what I will say is, when I joined the organization, the idea was that you needed to have a local kind of person to be able to attract the local talent. And I think it's a blend, because I mean, and this is true for your organization as well, is that a good recruiter is a good recruiter. And having a kind of a global function is very valuable to a team from many aspects, which I think are very obvious to most people. So for us, it's been a transition from that place, of understanding that it's not so much just the local language that the recruiter needs to have, but it's more of a mindset. And
Yeah.
so I think our team really reflects most of the talent that we recruit. These are people who are just very, everybody in our company kind of speaks multiple languages, has lived somewhere else. And, that's kind of the DNA of the company, is just, I call it a bit of a nomadic mindset.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really about personal connections. I mean, when you go out to the marketplace and you're able to do a reach out and connect with people on a more personal level, which I think the world is craving right now because everything is
Yeah.
digital, that does something. And so I think they're really trying to put more of a personalized touch on how they connect with people, which I
It's
think is something that you also exhibit in your organization. At least we have felt it. And I don't know, there's something
thank
also
you.
about energy, that people are drawn to certain things and certain people. And
Yeah.
so if your team can really reflect that, and that ability to make connection, I think that's a very powerful component to recruiting, beyond the digital and efficiency and sourcing
Yeah.
strategies.
I think so. Yeah, that human touch is still very, very important. I feel that. And although we use AI, recruiter, as lots of digital, I mean, two different ATS, etc. But when as you said, when you build that relationship with the candidate, we actually placed a lot of positions through the candidates referrals. So they refer their friends, someone from their network. So that builds trust, and also that's my passion area too. That's motivating me a lot, because you create a lot of connections through really
Mhm.
great people. So and also at the end, you see the impact on the business when you
Definitely.
place the right person in the right seat. So that's amazing, really.
Yeah. And for me it's low hanging fruit, because if you talk to people who are looking for opportunities or have been through these processes, the feeling is I'm nobody sees me, nobody hears me, you know,
Yeah.
and people really value now the human touch, because we've gone so automation, so digital, so you know everything needs to be super super efficient, and it does to a certain extent, but how do you balance that?
Mm.
I think is really the art of, you know,
Art, yeah,
because
exactly.
HR is a science and an art always, and
Exactly.
we're going very strong on the science part and less on the art of it's low hanging fruit. There's not a lot of magic. It's about connections and you know, what am I drawn to? What am I interested in? And
Mhm.
just like you started the podcast, let's talk first about the personal, and you know, it's not always straight to business, and that I
Yes.
think is a very powerful component. Doesn't cost a lot of money, you know,
Yeah.
so
And
there's
that's
a lot
also
of
joy,
simple
right?
things.
You learn and you relate each other. And I always say it's not B2B, like P2P, like people to people connection that we
Exactly.
create. I think that's the beauty of this. So let's come to the HR transformation topic, Mihail. I
Okay.
know you came maybe this role initially with that mission as well at some point, but for the Aleph, because you transformed many areas and still you continue with your team. So maybe you can share us a few examples from your transformation journey,
Mhm.
and still ongoing. And especially, I know you are also an analytical person. I mean, you create the business results, and you may see some business results as well through those examples. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about those real examples.
I can, but I want to share a little bit about my thoughts on transformation in the HR function, because I think it's really important, because we have been in a very interesting cycle the last 4 years, I would say, since COVID. Like, if you think before COVID, HR was still in this mentality of fighting for a seat at the table,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
now our seat is kind of middle section, front row,
Yeah.
and with a lot of spotlight, and it's almost like be careful what you wish for. So now HR is expected to put out all the emergencies, employee relations, making managers more capable, skill sets, transforming, digitizing. It's really a lot on the HR plate, and so this idea of transformation is huge. And if you look at the statistics of HR people, burnout, it's really profound.
Yeah.
And, you know, I thought about this. I love this question. And I love how you know, made me think about things that I wasn't necessarily thinking about. But if you think about women and how they've made a transformation over the years, from back in the day, you know, you were more either at home or you had a career, and then you started blending home life, career life. And that transition of trying to balance all of that stuff, it's like, you know, be careful what you wish for. We wanted to be career women, and but then we still wanted to take care of the family, and it's a lot to take on. I liken the workplace to that too, because HR is just now gone through this transformation of that seat at the table has now become front and center, where, you know, a minute ago we were just discussing about having a seat. And so we really need to kind of take a step back when we think about these transformations and what we can do, and how fast we can do it. And this idea of having a perfect, well run HR organization, and HR and an organization is something that we don't talk about.
Yes,
And
indeed.
this is what's contributing to this level of feeling overwhelmed and feeling,
Yeah.
you know, not good enough maybe. And I think it's really important to acknowledge this, because I know many of my peers and HR people in general are feeling the pressure big time.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I wanted to preface with that.
That's very
Um,
important point. Yeah, and actually, just maybe between parentheses, one of my friends, let's say, I met her through my network, and she's the global HR director of one of the big FMCG company in Middle East, and her role actually, she managed this whole HR transformation. They reviewed the organization design structure, and she was very very stressful and for a couple of years, and at the end actually her position was also impacted with the transformation, and she needed to leave the company, and when she worked there for more than 10, 15 years, as far as I remember. So it was quite tough for her, and now she's looking for the next step, of course, in her career. But and she told me that when she think back, like it was very challenging time, and she was close to burnout with the to complete that transformation steps, and at the end she was also kind of lost her job. So it is quite uh,
mm,
I
mhm.
guess it's kind of common in today's world to have that type of scenarios too. So I think we need to take care ourselves as HR as well during this transformation times.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah,
And the world and organizations and technology is moving at the speed of light, and we're
yeah,
surprised daily by what's happening in the world, whether it was the COVID situation, wars, natural disasters. It's really pretty profound, the amount of responsibility and expectations from the HR function today, while simultaneously downsizing. And we're in the year of efficiency, so
yeah.
we're losing budgets, resources, and yet expected to perform more than we've ever performed, taking on more responsibility than ever before. And so for me, one of the first things that your question really prompted me was, we call it an HR transformation, but this is not an HR transformation.
Not
It is really
right.
should be shared.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, today in many, many companies, we still look at it, if it's the HR system, it's just the HR people and it's the HR transformation.
Or sometimes
And
it's like seen as like HR system implementation type of, right?
right, when
So
this is really something that finance needs, and the
yeah,
business leaders need, and the responsibility is not shared enough. And it's really hard to get people to pay attention because everybody's workload is high.
yeah,
So I think, if just thinking about what things do we need to really change about HR transformation, is that this is organizational work that we
mm,
all share in responsibility. And how many, it would be interesting to interview leaders and ask HR leaders, how many times has somebody come to you and asked outside the HR function, how can they help you with this organizational transformation,
yeah.
which is impacting one of the most critical assets of your organization, which is the people, you
Exactly,
know?
exactly. Yeah, and
Um,
yeah, please continue. Yeah.
but I will share that just in terms of profound transformation, where I did see very big impact on the organization, was at Microsoft.
Hmm.
When Satya Nadella took the role of the CEO and really transformed the culture, it was really amazing to see the impact of the organization, the results of the organization. And it was because he led it with the leadership team,
Mm,
and was really, it wasn't about HR, you go lead the culture change or you lead the transformation of it. He took it upon himself and really understood the importance, the gravity of being really connected to that change and talking about it and what it means to him and what it means to the leadership team, and
yeah,
making sure that the leaders really embraced it and understood it. And it also is important to understand that these things take time, and we're in a very immediate gratification mindset these days, because we're in AI and social media, and everything is kind of quick, quick, quick. But he really understood the time and you have to put the energy towards it on a regular basis and be consistent.
Yeah.
It's never a one and done. And so I think these things are really important, and we forget sometimes because
Yeah.
we're so task oriented and trying to just accomplish what is the goal. The goal is to implement. This is the go live date. Let's go.
And also, we are expecting to see the results immediately on the bottom line.
Immediately.
But it's as you said. I mean, it takes time, especially culture transformation. It really takes time. It requires strong leadership, as well as being role model for others and consistently, not one time. So there is a lot of factor in influencing that. But yeah, hopefully, maybe things will be getting better. I don't know, but it's a great experience, I think, to see that shift and that transformation and being part of it. That is quite
Definitely.
inspiring. And
Definitely.
I also, I mean, we are coming almost at the end of our episode. The time is flying fast. And
Honestly.
but I would like to ask you, Michal, what advice would you give to other HR professionals, leaders who are managing this globally, their own transformation, organization, business, HR transformation journeys in their companies? So, any advice for themselves, for their teams? What would you say?
Yes, definitely. So I would say, well, first, no, it is a roller coaster ride. And the days that you feel down are completely normal. And every single human that is part of this kind of a transformation feels that way. So I think it's very important to acknowledge, because we come on podcasts and people are very, confident in sharing their amazing transformation, and they are amazing. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't come with hardship and
Yeah,
lows, just like a long term relationship or marriage, right? I mean, you may have a great relationship, but there's high highs and low lows, and it's kind of the cycle of life. And so this is that as well. And it's important to acknowledge that, because perhaps part of the burnout is because people are trying to live up to some kind of an expectation, which is really unrealistic.
yeah,
So I think that's really important to acknowledge. It is a roller coaster ride, and that's okay.
yeah.
I think also setting realistic expectations is very important, and moving away from this mindset of dates and kind of really strict thinking. Being more agile, we're asking organizations to be agile and people to be agile. Let's embrace that and be
Let's be.
agile and move things around when things aren't working exactly the way we expected, and be okay with that. Because we're still kind of in this goal setting mindset, and things are based on dates or whatever the case may be. We lose a lot of agility and flexibility, and I think it's we need to kind of adapt to this way of life, because things are happening all the time that are unexpected. And so if you want to have an HR team that embraces all of these unexpected things and is constantly supporting, we got to be flexible all the way. And I really try to embrace that on the team and be very comfortable with things moving around and not getting too worked up, because at the end of the day, as I say, we are not saving people's lives.
Yeah,
Let's put it in perspective. It's
yeah.
very important. Um, the other thing that has helped me a lot with the team is looking back. So
Mhm.
the thing that we do is we look forward. When is the transformation going to happen? When is the system going to be implemented? When is the new process going to roll out? And when you look forward, I mean, in our organization, there's a lot of work to be done. This is a long journey that's going to take some time to get to where we want to get, because you have integration, automation, emerging markets, like many different factors that are not so simple to take on. And so when you're always looking forward at what you have to do, it's very daunting. But
Mhm.
when you look back, just like when you're climbing a mountain, when you look to where is the peak, it seems very far off, and you're like continuing to take one step ahead of the next step.
Yeah,
But when you look back and you see how far you've come, it's an amazing feeling. And we really need to talk about that more. And we just had an HR All Hands, a really nice HR All Hands, where we
oh,
try to not
nice.
talk about business at all and just really
Face to
connect
face,
as
you do?
people. We know,
Virtually.
unfortunately, because we're in so many
You
countries,
are
it's very
in many
costly to
different
travel.
countries. Yeah.
But we did, intimate breakout rooms, which was really
Mm,
nice.
nice.
And so people got to be in more intimate settings virtually, but on video. So,
Hmm.
with people that they don't maybe interact with on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And so that was really nice. But one of the things that we talked about is, when I joined, HR people didn't know each other's names on the team. That's how disparate the teams were and
Yeah.
how strong the subsidiary model was. And I mean, we've accomplished so much as one team since then. And looking back on that, like you forget that that was even the case. And so when you do that look back and you understand how far you've come, it really puts things in different perspective for you. And
Yeah.
so, then looking ahead, it's like, we can do this because we've already come this far. So
Yes.
I think the look back is, something we forget to do and is really, really important and very impactful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think finding comfort in the team, like, we look for all these magical solutions, and sometimes just sitting with your team and, finding
Listening to
comfort
them.
in the
Yeah.
team.
Hmm.
It's really big and it really renews energy. And I think energy today is very drained in a lot of instances. And so
Yeah.
there are very simple places you can find energy, and the places that I can find energy will also energize other people, which is really
Hmm.
important.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
so those are very simple, I think, things to do that don't require a lot of
No.
effort, but are very powerful.
Yeah, no, that's great. Really great suggestions. I'll definitely list all of them after our episode because I think definitely, especially looking back, and I also noticed, I mean, when you were saying that, I mean, I also noticed that we are always looking ahead, like what are the things that we need to do, etc. I think we need to celebrate our successes for sure. And that gives a really great feeling to the team and bringing the team together outside of the business things. I mean, of course, we always discuss business, but get to know each other and knowing
Mhm.
names and knowing a bit personal level, that really helps to build relationships as well. And the people
Definitely.
become more open to each other. So I really like that. And I think you have really great team too. Like they have passion, they have
Thank you.
energy, and the energy level is high at least, although there are lots of factors draining the energy during the day. But I think that self energy motivation is also really key, especially when you work remotely with different businesses and
Yeah,
geographies. I think
yeah.
that's
And I
also,
think when you work in a safe space, which,
yeah,
people talk about that a lot, like, but what does it really mean to work in a safe space? Is that, you acknowledge the challenge and that the solution doesn't have to be perfect. We're just trying to get closer and closer and be better and better, and we have to be iterative all the time. And so I think that also removes some of the pressure from the team to really be able to take on some big, big challenges. These are not simple problems to solve. These are not simple organizational structures. And to go from zero, automate, like fully manual organization, to going to state of the art technology is not a simple thing. But when you remove that pressure and you really kind of call it out for what it is and take it on as a challenge, as a new experience, as a growth opportunity, that perspective shifts immediately and creates excitement and energy. And I'm not scared to fail. These things
yeah,
are
very
really
good.
impactful
Yeah,
and very
exactly.
important. Yeah.
Great. And Michal, I mean, we can go another hour easily,
This
but
was
thanks a
fun.
lot.
Thank
Thanks a lot
you.
for sharing your expertise, insights. That was very, very valuable. So thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it, Serap. It was great to see you. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you. And to
Okay.
our amazing listeners all around the world, thank you for tuning into Uplifting Global Talent podcast. And remember, the world of HR is ever changing, and it has to be. And let's stay inspired and uplifted. Until next time, take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.